Let's see this. Yo, what's up? How old are you? How old are you? James, are you there?
Yeah. I'm
Did,
33.
did you vote for Donald Trump?
Absolutely.
And why'd you do that?
Why wouldn't I? So, question. You guys talked about it already, and it was going to be a point that I hit on, but I have a couple other points. So, you're saying that you would have still liked President Biden to be president right now, even over Trump, because of his cognitive decline, correct?
Not because of it, but in despite of it.
Yeah,
Yeah, you know
in
what I
spite
mean.
of.
Yeah,
So,
I
in
was
spite
like,
of
dude,
it.
he's a great candidate because he's cognitively declined.
Yeah, that's what we need. Yeah.
Okay, but so you're saying you would rather have other people, and it really hasn't came out a lot, and there's a lot still to be brought out, but you still believe that Biden was running the country the last 4 years, like completely and utterly.
Yeah. I mean,
I have my own
obviously not
opinion on that.
completely. Like, there's an administration.
Well, I understand that. I'm not talking about the administration, but do you think he was making most of that policy, like agreed with it? Because if you
No,
look
because
back
the
at his
president doesn't
past-
make most of the policy. But was he actively involved in a lot of the government's affairs? Absolutely.
Yes.
if you look back at his history though, like and even politics have changed in the last 20 years. Like when Obama was running in 2006 against Hillary, they wanted to shut down the border. They wanted to get illegal immigrants out of the country, but now it's okay for illegal immigrants to be in the country.
No,
Do
wait.
you think-
We as Democrats, or as we as like as liberals, I personally, as I speaking for myself, I don't really have a problem with like tougher border security. In theory, I don't have a problem with that, right? I have a problem with the way that they're going about it.
Yeah, like we don't have an issue with specifically there being border security on making sure that there aren't violent criminals get into the country, right? Specifically, right? Like we are totally okay with border security as it relates to that. But people who are coming to the country for a better life, who have not committed violent crimes or bad crimes, they should be allowed to stay in the country. They should be allowed to be citizens in this country. That is a whole very, very important basis of what being an American truly is, right? Immigration is an important aspect and element of that.
Well, I absolutely understand that. But here's my theory behind it. If you're going to come and you're going to, cross the border illegally, which I have friends that have, and of course, some of them left, some of them, went and got their citizenship because they were never caught. Apparently, you have to spend 10 years out of the country before caught. Apparently, you have to spend 10 years out of the country before you can come back if you were caught illegally. But here's my point. Like, if you
That's why.
you can't blame the current administration for that. Now,
Actually, I can.
Why?
I can because it's Donald Trump.
Because they shot. Oh, I'm sorry, Parker. I'm
Go
sorry.
ahead. No, you're good.
No, because they shot down the one chance that we had to actually change the system. Like
What was the one chance the whole border bill back in
so that was
2022?
the most conservative border bill that had been proposed in like 20 years, and it actually would have changed the system in a way that like I may not have liked like all of it, but it would have actually changed the system.
So
And we had
question is,
okay. Yeah.
sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I totally understand where you're coming from. But if that was to be true, why do we have all these bills that have so much stuff into them? And like, why not come out with just
They
a
did.
bill for what?
They did.
What bill? Because the
So
2022 bill had a lot more stuff in it
No,
than
because
just dealing with
no, okay.
immigration.
The bipartisan border bill was first proposed along with foreign aid. That would not pass. So that was separated, and the foreign aid did pass, but the bipartisan bill that was only the border provisions that failed to pass because Donald Trump called the House and the Senate and said, "Do not vote for this bill." That's why it failed because at first the Senate Republicans said we will not vote for this bill because it has foreign aid provisions. So what did Democrats do? They got rid of those.
I understand all that. Here's one of the things though, and Donald Trump was not an elected person during that time. The senators in Congress was, and the people that agreed with Trump to not pass the bill should be voted out, not blaming
He's the
one
leader
person.
of the
It doesn't
party.
matter if he's the leader of the party or not.
It does matter.
If the We've seen that in the
I'm
last
directly
150
challenging.
days.
I'm directly challenging your.
Should be voted out, not blaming
He's the
one
leader.
person in the
I'm
last
directly
150
challenging
days.
like what's in best, and that he wants to actually fix things. I'm saying he doesn't, because if that was true, he would have called those Republicans and said, "You need to vote for this bill. Yes, this will give Joe Biden a huge win, but we need to do what's best for the country, and you must vote for this bill." He did not do that. Why? Because when he called, he said explicitly, "Do not vote for this because this will give Joe Biden a win." And the border issue, that's our biggest issue. That's what he said to these Republicans. He said, that's our biggest issue, and we don't want to give Joe Biden a win. That's somebody who doesn't care about the country. That's not.
But you're still not answering my legit question. Was Donald Trump a voted elected official at the time that border bill did not pass?
No.
Okay, so
But it
here's
does not
my thing.
matter
If
because
you have a problem
Okay.
James, respectfully, like James Langford acknowledged this, right? This was acknowledged by plenty of other people within the context of Congress. Lindsey Graham acknowledged this. Mitch McConnell acknowledged this.
I'm not.
Right?
I'm not
These are-
disregarding the fact that he made the call. Absolutely not disregarding.
No, he's the
that
one.
fact.
He's the reason why the bill didn't pass. So regardless of whether or not he was actively at that time in political office, it doesn't change whether or not he had a say over that. Same way as, like, for example, Obama has influences specifically over politics today, even though he's not specifically within political office. He still has influence. What he says would affect things politically.
And that's what I'm saying. We should not allow previous presidents or current presidents to influence elected officials in Congress and the House of Representatives.
Well, that's a problem. That's a First Amendment issue. So, like, sorry, but like,
No. They,
unless
they
you
should
wanna,
be able
like,
to talk to them, but they should not be able to influence them so much that it changes their vote. They should be voting on their
So I'm a
constituent
constitutionalist. I believe greatly in
president.
unless
They
you
should
want
be
to
able
like.
to talk to them, but they should not be able to influence them so much that it changes their vote.
Lobby. And that's what they're
Right,
doing.
and that's what I'm
is they're
saying is the
lobbying.
constituents should be able to.
James, can I say thank you to a few people real quick,
yeah,
and then I'll let you finish on that.
Yeah.
Lovey, thank you so much for the $50. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. That is actually horrible to hear. That is actually horrible to hear. I'm so sorry that you had to go through that, Lovey. Thank you so much for the $50. I really appreciate it. That's incredibly sad to hear. That's actually like horrible to hear. That is actually horrible to hear. I'm so sorry that you had to go through that, Lovey. Thank you so much for the $50. I really appreciate it. That's incredibly sad to hear. Thank you for the £10. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Incredible to hear. I'm so happy. I'm so happy that they survived that. I'm so happy they survived that. Can we get some W's for Roxy in the comment section right now? That's incredible to hear. That's so incredible. All right, you can go for it. Well, actually, Justin, thank you for the $30. Thank you so much. Say, can you give this to Matt? Yes, I got you. I'll make sure to send.
By the way, everybody, my link tree is in my bio.
Yes.
So like, please, if you want to give me something, you don't have to. Like, you really don't have to. But if you do want to, then my link tree is in my bio.
Yeah, it's better to do that. It's better to do that as well.
Yeah,
because it goes directly to him.
It's just easier for Parker and everything. So
yeah. But yeah, James, go for it. You were saying?
So I think the constituents' voice in their districts should be heard more than a president or previous president of the United States. And what they're doing is voting party lines and not what the people actually want. Like, you're going to tell me that everything the Democrats vote for is what you guys want.
no.
No, that's not what we said. We're just saying
that's the
Democrats
same
are
here.
better. Of course, we understand, but then
Like,
you'd have to be able to
and so
tell us
we-
specifically what about Kamala Harris is so bad that you wouldn't support her.
And that's
Specifically, what about Kamala Harris is so bad that you wouldn't support?
And was running for a second term and called up senators to torpedo a bill that I thought was a good bill, I would be calling him out on it just as the same as I would Trump, because that's bad for the country.
But that's happened every day in this term, in the last term, in every presidential term. It's happened. And not just President Biden or President Trump. Every president does it. Every Congress member does it. And they turn around and say, this bill's bad. And instead,
No,
if the
I have
bill's
no
so
problem.
bad, why not vote it down and put one bill at a time?
No, one, they did, but like two, my problem isn't the fact that like he has an opinion on the bill. My problem is that you're making the claim that like he wants to fix this issue and everything, and we had the first chance in a generation mainly to actually fix this issue in a real way, and we did not get that done. He said verbatim, not that the bill was bad. He said, "I don't want the bill to pass because this will give Joe Biden a win, and that this issue is very important to us." That's his reasoning for why he said
totally
this should go down.
And I have said this. I have totally disagreed with that happening. And the reason I disagree with it, and not because Trump did it or because I'm a Maga supporter or anything like that, I disagree with it because the senators and the House representatives should have stood up against them and said, no, we're voting what our constituents wanted to vote. And that's what should have happened. I blame Congress. I don't blame the previous president on that.
Well,
yes,
see,
he had influence on it. And I agree with that.
I
and
blame
that
both.
shouldn't be allowed. That should
why not
not be
both?
allowed.
Why not both?
What?
Why not both? Why can't I blame Trump and also
Because
blame
he still has a First
spineless
Amendment right
Republicans?
to say anything he wants. And you said that at the very beginning.
No. I am critiquing Trump right now. Like, do you want me to critique the Senate Republicans? I will. They're all spineless and they all... No. I am critiquing Trump right now. Like, do you want me to critique the Senate Republicans? I will. They're all spineless and they all bow.
They do that in the last, 160 days. They haven't done shit or passed anything Trump's wanted.
No,
I
they
think
have.
we need an
They
entire
have
rewrite of Congress.
No, they have. Okay, here. Let me give you one example, right?
Okay, go ahead.
There have been multiple people that Trump has nominated to certain cabinet positions that behind the scenes, the Republicans either do not like or think are batshit crazy. And I can name a few, right? But they still vote for them. Why? Because they say that they're afraid that Trump is going to say, this person is not loyal to me. Now we have to primary him. That's what they're scared of. And they're scared because we have to primary him. That's what they're scared of. And they did that all through the nominee process.
And didn't that kind of happen with Biden and the whole Kamala Harris situation?
No. There was no Senate Democrat that I know of that said, I'm afraid that Joe Biden will, one, nominate crazy people, or two, will say primary this person. Because Joe Biden actually was in the Senate, so he knows how to build compromise.
I was talking about the last election. With what happened with Kamala Harris getting primaried in without a vote of the primary. And I understand the reason why and everything like that.
That's a separate issue.
No.
How to build
Kamala Harris getting primaried in without a vote of the primary. And I understand the reason why and everything like that.
That's a separate issue.
All drastic processes. You never supported you shouldn't be supporting a candidate that specifically undermined the 2020 election process.
So you can so did Hillary Clinton. You can't turn around and
didn't
say
do that. She didn't send false slates of
electors.
She didn't send false slates of electoral college to cast Trump votes to cast her votes when she didn't win. She didn't get 70% of her electoral college to cast Trump votes to cast her votes when she didn't win. She didn't get 70% of her party to believe.
So did not Hillary go out and say that the election was stolen from her, and Obama and Hillary Clinton both investigated Trump the entire time of the 2016-2015 election campaigns?
No,
they didn't.
No. Certain Democrats said that there was funky things going on, and particularly in Georgia.
Did they not get a
I
FISA
don't
warrant
agree
to
with
spy
those,
on them?
but it never got to the level of what Donald Trump did. Never got to the level.
But
what you're talking about
they
with
not
Hillary
get a
Clinton
FISA
talking
warrant?
about a legitimate president, that she's talking about the electoral college.
I understand, but they still played the system in a different way. I understand, but they still played the system in a different way. President Trump still left office.
Never.
He's talking about the electoral college.
I understand, but they still played the system.
It's to be one.
But he can
He's a wannabe
have freedom
dictator.
of speech. He can say whatever he wants.
But,
Just
okay,
like
so-
you can.
But
You can call him a
but I don't want my
Why do you call him
president to be a
rapist
wannabe
if he's never
dictator.
been proved guilty in the court
he
of
was
a
held
criminal
civilly
court
liable for forcibly
saying-
penetrating
he
a
was held
woman's vagina
civil
against her will.
liable. Why have you not actually said that? Every time you
have.
say he's a rapist. No,
Every
you say he's
single
a rapist.
time I say he was held civilly liable of sexually abusing a woman.
Okay, why have you not?
Time I say he was held civilly liable of sexually abusing a woman.
Okay, you're one of the few people. If you can actually say that, congratulations. Thank you for actually being honest. But there's a lot of people out there calling him a rapist when there's no criminal.
He is a rapist.
No. So was
Here,
he
let me be clear.
Proven
Donald
beyond
Trump,
a reasonable doubt,
I
or
got
was
you.
he held civilly liable?
James. Donald Trump is a rapist. He was held civilly liable for unanimously amongst a jury of 9 people forcibly penetrating E. Jean Carroll's vagina against her will. That is rape, by definition.
So why not actually hold him accountable, or not hold him accountable? But if you think that he would have been held accountable the same way in a criminal court, do you think that would have actually went through? Beyond a reasonable doubt, not a more than likely account, beyond a reasonable account.
Yes. Right, because I would think that there would have been also DNA. But, I mean, the thing is, when it comes to criminal courts, the reason why it wasn't able to be applied in a criminal court is because of the statute of limitations.
Yes, I understand the statute of limitations. I'm not arguing that point of it. I'm just trying to bring up a point here. He was held civilly liable, which is more than likely, but that still doesn't held to the same standard as someone that was held for rape. There's been 30,000 people put in jails here that haven't committed the crime, if not more.
So, what is the likelihood of there being a false accusal of rape? Well, in terms of the court system, it's around 2 to 10% based upon the conglomeration of different types of studies, right, reports, right, and what's called surveys and stuff. Lavender, thank you so much for the subscription. Thank you. And based upon that evidence, right, that would indicate that if it is the case that just accusals are 2 to 10% likelihood of being inaccurate, well, then people held civilly liable, the percentage of likelihood of that being inaccurate is even lower. So then it would be the case that there has to be
civilly liable afterwards. I understand that.
So that means that there's an incredibly low chance that it's wrong.
Yeah,
and
but
yet you're deciding there's literally over a 90% accuracy claim, and you're like, oh, I don't know if it's enough.
It's not enough. Nothing is 100% proof. The justice system,
but 90%.
No. Listen to me for a second. The justice system in our country sucks. Do you not agree with that?
Certain aspects, yes.
Okay, so if someone was to say, hey, this person raped me, they go to jail and they have to go sit in a trial for the next 6 months to many years until the trial ends, correct?
Yeah, what's your point?
Is that not, and then they're found not guilty. Should the person that said, I'm a victim of this, and it was proven not guilty, and they actually went and got all these different things done, wouldn't you say that person should serve the jail time? Because then we wouldn't have any false
just because someone's considered not guilty doesn't mean that they didn't do it. But if someone is considered guilty, that is really good reason to believe that they're guilty.
Okay, so what you're saying
is held in a criminal.
That's exactly what I was getting at.
When we're because we're talking about Donald Trump, a white, straight, rich man, in America, right? Therefore, right, there's not going to be any specific reason you can be like, oh, like the justice system would not have properly functioned.
No, what you said was actually correct. So if they are found guilty, they are more than likely guilty. They're like 99% guilty, right?
It is again 2 to 10% likelihood of a false accusal when it comes to just accusation with these types of cases, right? And
correct.
That would be even less for civil liability claims. So over 90% accuracy rate.
So when they're found not guilty, should we not punish the person that said, hey, they were guilty, the victim?
No,
because you're saying like 2 out of 10, they're mostly. So the not guilties, how many of those not guilties?
Not guilty just means that there wasn't necessarily enough evidence given to the courts under their standard to accept guilt. That's all it means. It doesn't mean that it was false.
Such a low.
Not guilty doesn't mean it was false.
No, I understand, but 2%. That's such a low standard of saying, hey, more than likely.
I'm not saying most people are found guilty. That's not what my argument.
No, you're saying no. The people that are found not guilty, right? You're saying they are considered in that 2% chance of the victim lying, correct? So
Yes. What's your point?
yes, that's what I'm saying. So if you have 5 out of 10 not guilties, right? Shouldn't those be investigated to see if they did wrong? If they put a victim up there that was wrong? That's what's wrong with our justice system. Anybody can say anything and say, "Hey, this person did this to me."
I don't
And their
want
life
to.
is
No, I
ruined
don't.
for
I don't
them.
think you should start investigating great victims who didn't have enough evidence in the context of the court system. If anything, that would disincentivize victims to come out, right, and to hold their abusers
Okay, what
accountable,
about
right? Because if they didn't have necessarily enough evidence in order to be able to convict them, it would be the case that they would be held accountable for a crime, which is insane as a
right?
standard.
And I know you live in LA, but I know you have a friend that lives in Georgia or did or whatever. I'm not sure anymore. I don't really care about
Not
that.
friends.
But okay, so I'm not trying to say you are or aren't. I was just wasn't sure. So, did you hear about the lady that said this person kidnapped my kid in Georgia in the Walmart?
No, I didn't.
Okay. When you get a chance, look that up. Walmart, and it was a very sad story. But the video that, like, I will say, if any jury out there convicts him, it's highly
Wait, that may just be
irrefutable.
like a symptom of like racism because the guy was like not white. So like it may be the fact that like they were just being racist too. I mean, like
Yeah, we're talking about.
that's a possibility.
Yeah, we're talking about
Well,
a
that's a
white. We're talking
possibility.
about a white cis straight, or actually, sorry, orange, right? Again, like rich man, like in America, like
So
this guy. There's
is there
nothing
no
that
racism
discriminates
against
against
those
him.
people?
There's
Is there
no
no racism?
against
None.
against Trump.
No, against a white cis man. Is there no
Racism?
racism against? Yes.
No, that's impossible.
No, yeah. What are you talking about? What do you mean by
Okay.
racism?
All right. So I'm a white straight man. Do you think I get people that treat me differently because of my race?
If anything, they treat you better. Yeah, that's called white
So,
privilege.
so my kid was unalived by a black cop and a black wife, and she served 5 days in jail, 2 years probation. So I want to understand
Wait.
that
Well,
there's no
I'm sorry.
racism.
I'm sorry. What did the race have to do with that?
If it would have been a black family and the white cop killed my kid, would have not changed the history. Look up Rhett Walker.
No,
Florence,
not
Colorado.
what? Wait, you understand? You understand that's the reason why there's been a movement is because historically speaking, it has not been addressed in that way.
But it is. It doesn't matter if you're race or anything. I think it has to do with who you know and what you do.
Okay, so then I'm confused what your argument is here.
So there is no racism. Everyone says there's racism.
You say there's no
Yes, there's
racism?
people
Did this guy,
racism. I
James, did you
don't
just
think
really
the court
argue there's
system-
no racism? Stop.
Yes.
No.
Yes, I am arguing that.
Yeah, because you're dumb.
Not in the
I'm
court
sorry.
system.
Get off my live, dude. You do
No,
not
you
come-
get off my live.
No, James, I'm the host, right? You
I know you
cannot
are.
just
I'm
deny the
screwing with you,
existence.
but no, seriously,
You cannot.
I really do
James,
believe that.
James,
Yes,
James,
I
James.
do believe that.
You know what? You know how about this? How about this? You deny the existence of racism. Why do you think there should be allowed asylum from South African refugees who are white?
Wait, explain. I'm sorry.
Why
You got me lost.
do you agree with Donald Trump allowing for the asylum process for people who are coming from South Africa who are white? Because he thinks that there's racism that's affecting them. Do you believe? I thought racism doesn't exist.
I don't believe. I think there is a culture where racism does exist, person to person, but not in our court system, not in our country. Yes, there is.
Oh my God.
Racism, person to person. There's
the
gonna be
amount of
someone that
evidence,
doesn't like someone because of their color.
that we have,
I understand
that
that.
the court
What
system
I'm
is
saying, though,
racist is like so hot, like it's like beyond like I'm sorry, but like yes, race absolutely plays a role in like how people are like sentenced and judged. Because the fact is, like we go back to the '80s. I mean, that's a prime example, right? The very people for like DRUG crimes, white people got reduced sentences or no sentence at all for the exact same DRUG. It was the exact same. Like that is a clear cut case.
well, and
Right?
that's what I'm saying. So my kid was unalive. The lady served 5 days in jail, 2 years probation, pleading guilty. And the
Okay,
same charge for a
sure.
different couple where the baby was black and a white lady, she served 2 years of prison time.
One,
So
I'm,
there
I'm
is
just sorry, James.
one,
How you look so ridiculous when you say there's no racism that exists. I hope you realize how stupid that makes you look.
But also,
that
too,
is an actually embarrassing.
I'm saying
statement.
there's person to person racist.
James,
Yes, a
also,
person
too.
can be racist
That is
against person racist.
James,
Yes, a
also
person
too.
can be racist
That is
against
racism.
another person.
No, two, without knowing the specific circumstances, right? The fact that a black cop, shot your son does not mean that it person. That doesn't mean that it's because of race, but that's something that needs to be looked into, right? And I don't know what your circumstances were. That maybe, like I said, I don't want to start making claims about why.
I understand you're not making claims. I was just saying that in our county there was 2 cases that were similar in circumstances, and the cop didn't kill my kid. It was his wife. He was strangled to death. But another kid had drowned in a pool, and the lady had served 2 years jail time, and yet she was white and the kid was black. So I believed that it didn't have to deal with racism. I believe it had to deal with who you know.
Okay, James, sure, okay. Area. But James, one instance in your life does not negate the 200+ year history of the.
And I'm not saying there was racism
of
before.
The criminal justice. No, not even before. Currently, right now, we have verifiable data. Okay, verifiable data that is hardly ever not refuted at all. It's that the fact is that white people are treated differently for crimes in our system in a more positive way. Black people, Hispanic people, brown people, they all get more harsh sentences. That has been documented for so long that I don't think white people, that has been documented for so long that I don't think anybody can actually dare. But the overwhelming evidence says that across.
I mean, I don't
You're
actually
gonna agree, but then you're gonna deny that racism exists.
Yes, in the court system, I am, because I've seen it firsthand.
Okay,
James,
wait.
okay,
I have a question. I have a question. Are juries
Go ahead.
juries a part of the court system?
Absolutely.
Does interpersonal racism exist?
Yes.
Okay, juries, right, will then have interpersonal racism, so then that will affect the.
But
the
all
judgments.
it takes is one person not
So
voting.
so then, James, does that affect the judgments then? If again, more of that is going to be impacted specifically by racism because you believe there's interpersonal racism.
No, I think our country should change the court system. That's
yeah,
what I'm
again,
saying.
we should change the court system. We should change the court system, but none of the things you need to change about the court system relate specifically, right, about Donald Trump being negatively impacted. If anything, specifically Donald Trump is positively impacted by it. Donald Trump is positively.
Do you think he had a fair trial that nobody knew him in that and nobody listened to it? That's my question.
I think he had a fair trial and he was proven that he was held liable of sexual abuse.
Do you think that would have been the same thing if 12 people wouldn't have known him? Or he wouldn't have been
the jury was 9 people.
Do you know how I know that it was fair? Because that same jury said no to the top crime, right? They said no to that top thing, right? They had they been right, I hate Donald Trump, they would have just said that he was liable of grape. They would have just said that right there on the form, but they didn't do that. Why? Because they weighed the evidence and they found that it was just SA. So that actually proves that it was actually fair.
Matt, you gotta explain it after now because now he's gonna run with that. So again, when it comes to how it was defined legally,
That's why I said the form.
This is why now he's going to start cutting me off. Oh my God, I'm going to go insane. Be quiet. Listen to what I'm saying. I'm trying to explain something to you because you're going to misunderstand this. So specifically, SA defined under the law, under the context of New York, and grape as defined under the context of the law. Grape is defined as specifically forceful penetration of a woman's vagina against her will, utilizing a male member. And yet we think that there can be grape, right, as forceful penetration of a woman's vagina against her will, utilizing something such as fingers, right? So again, that legal definition, I'm just trying to clarify, that legal definition at the time was not representative of what we colloquially use the term grape to refer to. So go for it.
Look, I've actually studied these things. I'm not going to disagree with you, and I know exactly what you're talking about. I've watched a lot of your videos. I've watched you for the entire election season. I know exactly what you're going to say. I wasn't trying to cut you off on purpose. I just knew exactly what you were going to say. My thing was, I don't remember.
So then why don't you hold Trump accountable?
I wasn't trying to be a dick. I should have
that's
wrote it
fine.
down.
Well, so then why don't you hold Trump accountable? If you have heard me say this a million times, why don't you hold
Because
Trump accountable?
I don't think he did it, and that's my freedom of speech. That's my way of doing it. Because you still have the jury of the entire public view. And everyone should respect that. Everyone should respect if you say he didn't do it or did do it.
Wait, sorry, say that one more time.
So I still have a public view of it, and I don't think he did it. And that's my right to say that. I don't think he did it. There was lots of things. I don't think the case, and listen, I watch a lot of cases. I don't think the case made sense in a sensible manner. Like, if there was DNA on a dress, like, come on, Trump touches thousands of things. He's drank out of thousands of things. You're telling me they couldn't get his DNA?
Appreciate the galaxy. Thank you so much. Again, the DNA wasn't tested. I'm asking you what specifically about the case you dispute.
Well, I dispute there was no actual. Where was the video of it? Because wasn't there a video of it and then they got rid of it?
You said they got rid of a repeat that.
Like
one time?
the video wasn't like clearable or anything like that. Like there was a video of this happening. Like clearable or anything like that. Like there was a video of this happening.
We're talking about the essay case.
Yes, the essay case.
There was no video that you're referencing. What are you referencing?
So, in the areas that he would have been.
Wait,
and
I'll ask you a question. Who was the victim? What's her name?
I don't even know. Don't even care because I'm like
he doesn't care.
Listen. I had something. I don't even care because I'm like
he doesn't care.
Listen. I had something.
Yeah. So you don't know the place. You don't know her name. You don't know anything about the case.
No,
You've heard me been talking about this for a long time.
I'm trying to fucking talk, bro.
Go ahead.
Like, it is kind of nice to talk to you because I do listen. I listen to all of you, and I don't care what's going on with your little friendship. And you and Dean, I've talked to both of you. So I'm gonna get off here. You're probably gonna kick me for that. But listen, I've listened to you guys, and you are the most sensible people out here. And I do believe that you guys are like full-heartedly into it. And just because I don't know every single detail of what happened in that court case doesn't mean that I didn't research it, because I watch a lot of court cases. Look, I don't just sit and watch one thing or beat on Trump or beat on Biden. Like, I watch a lot of shit. And I do want to appreciate your time, and you are the most sensible person out here. I do think that, no offense, you should debate with Charlie Kirk and not Dean, because I think you'd be a better debater with him, only because you have that religion kind of debate right now going on. But there's one thing. You did not cook that dude that you had the Jubilee debate with. That's my opinion.
You think
That's only my
you think
opinion.
Jordan Peterson beat me?
All you want, bro.
Wait, James, can we talk about that quick? You think Jordan Peterson beat me?
No, I don't think he beat you. I don't think it was. So I don't think you cooked him, and I don't think he definitely beat you. I think he had a sensible reason to say what he said, because you do come up with the craziest things. Like, listen, I've heard
the hypothetical I brought up is like a philosophy 101 example.
Like, I just don't. He even said, I would not put myself in that position. And I don't think you were listening to that part. You were like, well, what if you did?
That is not a good response to what I'm saying. Everyone who knows what the hell they're talking about knows that is a ridiculous way to respond to a hypothetical such as the one I asked. The one I asked is a known hypothetical that he said he knew about, that he could have easily responded to, but the reason he didn't want to respond to it was ridiculous. He said that, like, oh, he wouldn't have got himself in that position in the first place. So are you saying that, like, he thinks it's like a mistake specifically to like take care of his Jewish friends during the Holocaust?
I mean, there's 1,000 possibilities. He could have left the country before the Holocaust. He could have done lots of things before that had happened. Now,
but you're saying that was a moral obligation by Christianity?
I guarantee. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, but that's not a moral obligation by Christianity.
Like, absolutely. Do I think he would have lied? Absolutely. And do I think that he was trying not to say that because you backed him in a corner for a hypothetical that, to me, like, a lot of people wouldn't be put in that circumstance because they're not comfortable, and they would have left the country long before that actually happened. Just like if that was happening here in the U.S. and we were back in the 1930s, you're telling me that you and me and everybody else wouldn't try to leave the country or try to change it?
You could try to change it. You could try to address it. Actually, you'd be the one supporting it, right?
I would not be the one supporting
yeah,
it.
you-
Please
you-
don't say that. No. I would not be supporting that. And you know that, and I know that. Don't say something that I would not support. I would not support any genocide. I served 8 years in the Army. I'm telling you, I would not support that.
Okay, well then, how do you feel about Donald Trump explicitly,
Oh.
right, supporting, like, giving funding to Saudi Arabia to help commit a genocide in Yemen, right?
Okay, I haven't done much research on that. I actually haven't heard you talk about that much, and I listen to a lot of your lives. You have been kind of hard to watch lately. Your lives don't pop on my shit anymore, so I don't understand that.
Yeah,
So
that's all. TikTok hates me.
I'm